All right, welcome everybody. The first official episode, web clip, video clip, whatever you want to call it, of Hearing Things with Julie and Brad. And here we are together, ready to kind of dive in a little bit. Wanted to provide a bit of background about both of us. I think we had mentioned in our introductory video, if you haven't seen it, it's pinned to the top of this page, so be sure to look, that we have similar hearing losses, but they're very different. So we're in a same different kind of situation here where we're able to really compare and contrast a lot of our lives in terms of our experiences, our perspectives, opinions, and the type of hearing loss we deal with. So I have sensory neural hearing loss, and to give you a sense of the severity, I have a profound loss in my right ear and a severe to profound loss range in my left ear, and it's quite significant. It is degenerative over time, and it's been kind of going down off the audiogram page since I was about 3.5 years old. My earliest memory is being in the doctor's office getting fitted for my first hearing aid, and truly, there's such a part of me, I really don't think about it until I have to. And we live in a world that's not designed with us in mind, so there is a lot of thinking about it all day long, but they're very much part of my identity. So, Brad, do you have a similar loss to me, I think,
I
right?
I do. So I have the bilateral sensory neural. I can never say it right. It's
Yeah,
SNHL, sensory neural hearing
yeah.
loss, and it just means damage to the cochlear, right? So the
Hmm.
hair cells aren't there anymore, and
Yeah.
so I have what they call reverse slope. So as you age, not everyone, the vast majority of people lose the high frequencies.
Hmm.
So I lost the low tones and midtones, which is right where conversations
Oh,
happen.
wow.
So I'm very similar to
Really?
Julie. You can see our audiograms actually at the top of
Yeah.
the page.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pain. It's pain in the butt. I have needed hearing aids since I was 5. I failed the
Hmm.
screening in kindergarten,
Hmm.
and my mom took me to Mass Eye and Ear, and when I was 5, and I was in that isolation booth, and I couldn't finish it. I was crying too hard. It was just traumatic.
Wow.
And honestly, every
Wow.
time I get a new one, and you do have to get an audiogram with every set of hearing aids, my palms get sweaty. I hate it. I hate it so much, but it's needed. Luckily my hearing has stayed stable, so I got my first
Hmm.
set of hearing aids at 23, so that was
Oh, wow.
20 years ago now.
Wow.
And I'm losing some of my high frequencies. I used to be almost perfect hearing, whatever that means,
Sure.
up there, and it's slowly creeping down, and my low tones and mid tones are also, dive bombing, doing the limbo.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
so I too just like my I don't not wear my hearing aids, even if I'm alone. It's just become just a part of me, and it's just become something that I do
Hmm.
by default. My ears, I'm sure you feel the same thing. They get sore sometimes because there's something
They
in
do.
there all the time,
They
especially
do.
in the summer, with the heat.
Yep.
It
Yep. We
sucks.
can do a whole episode on that,
Yeah,
of
stay
how the
tuned.
weather impacts the inside of our ears. I'm sure we have one planned. If we don't, we will
Yes.
definitely add that to our list. There's a lot to say about that for sure. So, Brad, I was thinking for this episode, we're talking to talk about an experience that we both shared together at a 4th of July barbecue that I hosted on the 4th of July. We were both there together in a large group of people. And I just wanted to kind of dialogue a bit back and forth for the folks that are watching and help them understand what that social navigation feels like for us when we're in a large group. And I know for me, like I said, we're very similar, very different. I'm
Yeah.
much more extroverted
Yeah.
and kind of in the middle of a crowd
Yeah.
and talking and animated, where you tend to kind of stay on the peripheral. You're more of an observer,
Yeah.
maybe like one conversation at a time. Where
Yeah.
I'm very like trying to follow all of it. So let's talk a little bit about what that was like for us on the 4th generally, and then we can talk about what it's like in specific situations with conversational
Sure.
pieces. So I'll have you just jump in a little bit. Like, what's something when I'm thinking when we were in my living room towards the end of the night, there was about 6 or 7 of us kind of in a circle.
Yeah.
And I know we were seated next to each other at one point, we kind of looked at each other at the same time, and we're both like, oh, what are you missing? I'm missing. So, what strategies had you used yourself, or, what does it feel like? All that good stuff. Just give me some of your perspective from that experience that night.
Yeah, so I tend to, I'm a big introvert, and so I tend to like personal interactions, one-on-one, one-on-two, like smaller groups, and that's kind of what happens in a group setting, and like in your living room, it kind of did when my brother was speaking, he was holding court, and so like everybody was looking at him, and so those conversations are kind of easier because
Right.
it's only paying attention to one person, and so. I don't know about you, Julie, but I never catch every word anyone says, no matter how loud Tom is. There's still
Hmm.
something I miss. And in
Yeah.
fact, so the captions that we have going now, sometimes I have to look down when Julie's talking because I miss it.
Sure.
And that's just the
Sure.
nature of it. So it's not just for people in the audience, but it's also for us.
Yep. Absolutely.
So the living room was actually a little easier for me,
Hmm.
and I think for you as well too, because it was more contained and there was less background noise, which
Yes, for
is
sure.
I think one of the things that people don't understand about hearing aids is that they make everything louder, and I know that sounds
Right.
obtuse, but
Right.
our brains literally are not equipped to handle background noise. And so when the hearing aids are making the conversation behind us louder too, we have neurological problems being able to
Hmm.
focus in on the person we want to hear. And so earlier in the afternoon, it was really hard because there was a lot of conversations, and there was the band. The band was
Yep. We
great,
have the bands. Yep.
but it was also hard because the hearing aids have directional microphones, and they have fancy bits and boops that kind of like filter out noise automatically and are constantly
Hmm.
monitoring the environment. But it's just a crutch. It's just a way to help. It doesn't make it perfect. It makes it a little better. But
Yeah.
in the living room, like you were saying, it was easier. But like still, when conversations splinter off, it's like ping pong, right?
That was, yeah, that was felt like a game of tennis for both of us, kind of
Yeah.
going, okay, who are we listening to? Who are we talking
Yeah.
to? And then almost at the same time, hoping that nobody asks us a direct question because we really don't know what's going on. So it's not really super fun.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a level of stress. I think the difference with the art in the living room, too, at least for me, is the living room is much more well lit.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's easier for me to see everyone's faces because at that point in the evening, the was starting to get darker out, and we still had a lot of that ambient noise, and it was just a little more complicated trying to navigate everything outside. So I definitely agree inside was better.
Yeah.
It wasn't perfect. And for folks listening at home, I think a real important thing that maybe not everyone knows is that hearing aids amplify and create things make it louder, like Brad had said. They don't correct your hearing. So it's not the same as putting on a pair of glasses and your vision is
Right.
corrected. It's really a tool that's helping us amplify the world to make it louder. And while technology has come unbelievable bounds
Oh
since we
yeah.
both got our first pair, it's incredible. There's still a fair amount of jockeying socially that we have to do, which includes, I know for you it's the same, positioning myself so folks are on my left, which is my relatively stronger ear, not by much, but a little bit. Um, Making sure I'm maintaining eye contact. And oftentimes it's not comfortable, but I do have to ask things to be repeated or ask people to speak when they're looking at me or increase their volume. There's a lot of self advocacy that goes into that. And for as extroverted as I am, it is exhausting. Sometimes at the end of a party or the end of an interaction where my social battery drains really, really fast.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you feel the same, if you echo some of those same sentiments.
Absolutely. I think it's just the difference as an introvert. That battery gets drained a lot quicker.
Hmm.
But it's worth it most of the time. And obviously, there's going to be situations where, I just want to get the hell out of there.
Sure,
But your party was not
sure.
one of them, so don't
I
worry.
was going to say, I'm going to take you off the invite list if we keep going
No,
on this track.
no.
I think the other piece to that, you're right. Like it's challenging. There is rewards to it, but it
Yeah.
would also be a lot easier for us, I think, to remove ourselves and stay isolated
Yeah.
because there is a level of social anxiety and stress, even for me, who's the loudest person in the room most of the time. If Brad's brother isn't there, I'm number two.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's real significant for both of us. It's just it's work to
Yeah.
socialize for sure,
Right. So
for sure.
listening isn't a passive activity, right? There's something called
Hmm.
active listening, and it takes energy, and it's just a matter of the tricks that we can do. Like Julie was saying,
Hmm.
positioning. Look for me, I look at lips, and I've noticed
Hmm.
that I just do it by default, and
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever noticed this. If you look at lips as well, is sometimes when you meet somebody new and you're so focused on their lips, there'll be like a hitch in what they're saying. And that hitch will be when they realize that you're staring at their mouth.
There's that little bit of like social creepiness that
Right.
comes with it. If we're not upfront about why I'm doing this, there's definitely that little bit of like, what is going on with like serial killer behavior. It's true. I mean, lips, facial features,
Yeah.
emotions, body language, we're
Yeah.
constantly putting all of that together to get the full picture. Because people have said to me, and I'm sure they've said it too, will you hear everything I'm saying? And my answer is always the same.
No.
I don't know what I'm missing.
Yeah. Right. You don't know what you don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
So I'm just constant jockeying to put it all together. But I do love a party. I do love hosting. I do love being with folks, one on one in groups, whatever. So it is well worth it. But
Sure.
I definitely notice as my hearing is getting worse, it's getting more challenging, even feeling motivated sometimes to
Oh,
remain at a
sorry.
party or to go out or whatever. But I do get there. But I've noticed my social battery drains a lot faster than it used to, for sure.
It's hard because it's not just the challenge isn't just at the party. It's, in daily life with friends, with
Right,
family. It's
right.
constantly, it's active. It's an active role that we have to take in order to like
Hmm.
hear as much as we hear. And I think that we're kind of the victims of our own success. Like you were saying,
Hmm.
it's like people don't understand we don't catch everything. And we
Right.
catch enough to make them confused that we
Yeah.
don't catch everything. And
Right.
so, I don't know, maybe Julie, we should start saying, huh? A little bit more.
I know
Yeah.
and that comes with a whole other set
Oh,
of
yeah, that's a
assumptions.
different
That's a
topic.
whole other show. We have so many things we can
Yeah.
cover for sure.
Yeah.
And I think also, I know we'll talk about this in future episodes. We both work in people-facing
Oh,
jobs
yeah.
where our whole day is
Hmm.
verbal and people interaction. We don't have the kinds of jobs where we can go and sit in an office with a cup of coffee and work on a project on the computer for an hour.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's constant. I mean, for me as a teacher, it's a dog and pony show every 45 minutes. And then you're in the library, constantly one-on-one
Yeah.
talking and navigating tech equipment and things like that. It's that's a lot also. So we really don't get a lot of a quiet break unless we build those in for ourselves.
Luckily, I wouldn't still be a librarian if I was a circulation librarian. It
Sure.
would be too much for me. And we were
Right.
talking the other day about the known quantity, right? So you have kids in your class, and I'm sure that next
Hmm.
month or whenever you start school
Yeah.
again, it's going to be really challenging as your brain acclimates to this group of kids and their
Yep.
voices and their voices and their. I'm sorry, my battery life is dying. So their voices, if they mumble and stuff like that, and so I have a lot of first times, right? So I don't always get the same patrons, and I worked yesterday, Saturday,
Hmm.
and I was on my phone with somebody who mumbled, spoke softly, and had an accent. If I didn't have a T-coil headset to stream it
Yeah.
into both my aids, I literally would not have been able to do my job. So it's tough. I'm gonna jump off camera and plug in. 1 second.
Okay.
Technology is great, but it's battery powered, like our ears.
I love the irony that the tech librarian is not responsible enough to have his laptop charged right now, when some of us over here, the special education teachers,
Yeah,
came
it's true.
prepared with our accommodations. Just need for you to point that out to the listening
Yeah.
audience. So, yeah, I mean, we talk about the exhaustion, we talk about the energy that it takes, and I think the last bit to kind of address in this clip is really the emotional impact sometimes
Oh
where you
yeah.
do have that, at least for me, like when all of a sudden the group is laughing and I missed the joke.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like, oh, doing like the fake laugh and smile. And if you know me really well, you can tell from across the room that I completely missed the entire thing. I know both my brothers are very good at that. Um, and like that catches up to you after a while, and you kind
Yeah.
of sit and reflect. It's like, oh God, I missed it again. Like, that doesn't feel great, And it's I don't know if you encounter that at all. I know for me
Oh,
that's something that I always come back to, like, oh God, I'm smiling and nodding again. I'm missing this. Am I really a part of things? It just doesn't feel great.
it's isolating. Even if
Yeah,
you're in the middle of dinner with family, it's isolating.
sure.
And so you had mentioned in the planning document we have some tips, and I think the number one tip, and it just never mind is never something you should say.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
we understand that when we're asking for the explanation of the joke and the moment has passed, and when you explain it to us, it doesn't feel good for anybody, but it's still
Right.
better than never mind. I mean, that's just the full letter word, right?
Yep. Or what I've gotten too is, oh, it's nothing. Forget it. Well,
Right.
it was something 10 seconds ago
Yeah. Right.
to
Yeah.
other folks, and I would like it to be something to me as well.
Yeah.
And I think something to really remind people of is not to repeat it necessarily the same way that it was originally said, because those are sounds that we obviously
Yeah.
missed for one reason or another. So it's also not going to be super fun for us to have to relive the thing
Right.
we just missed the first time. So definitely kind of work on rephrasing what
Right.
you're saying and to make sure you're maintaining a respectful tone and
Yeah.
showing patience and grace for
Yeah.
sure.
Absolutely. I think perfect, right? Because it's not about it's about our like how we feel and like being included, and it's just a horrible feeling to just like be lost in the middle of a
Absolutely,
conversation. It's like I
for
said earlier,
sure.
it's so isolating.
It is. So hopefully we gave you some good things to think about next time you encounter one of us or someone else with a
Yeah.
hearing loss in a
Yes.
social situation. But I remind the audience, and we will hear it say this 100 times, that this is true perspectives of true people with similar hearing loss. That's it. We are not the Deaf Book of Secrets where we'll reveal everything to you that you need to know about every hearing impaired person you encounter. That's not the, that's just impossible, and that
Right.
wouldn't be respectful at all. But something that Brad and I talk about a lot, and even in our own connection with each other, is making sure that we're putting the person first above
Yeah.
the disability. Because we can easily go into, oh my God, this happened to me today with my hearing aids, da, 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 and we
Yeah.
forget that there's a person there that you're connecting with. So something we wanted to add to this is to bring forward a personal connection. We both love to read. We have a little book competition going on. If we post books on Goodreads by December, I think it's winning right now drastically. So I got the summer to make up for it. And want to do a book recommendation for you because that's something that's important to both of us, and that's putting our person first as
Hmm.
opposed to our disability. So you'll be thinking about us in a different way, in a respectful way. So I'm going to recommend the first book, and then Brad, you can recommend your book, right? So my book is called The Measure by Nikki Erlick, and Brad will pop the link in there somewhere for you if you're interested in reading it. And it is fabulous. I read it 2 summers ago, and I'm still thinking about it. And I've
Oh.
started a book club around this book, and I've handed it out to anybody who can get their hands on it. It's basically the concept is one day the entire world wakes up, and there is a box on your door, and there's a string inside that box, and it just goes from there. And it brings up a
Interesting.
lot of philosophical questions of, do you open the box? What does the string mean? Once you find out what the string means, do you get to look in other people's boxes? What if someone else doesn't want to look at the box with someone you love and you need to know? Do you sneak around and look at the box? It'll make you think. Love it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Love it. You can read it if you haven't read it yet.
I have not. I think I've heard
Well,
of it before, so I think I know what the spring
mhm.
means because
I think I put
spoilers.
it on my book list to you. It's fabulous.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll definitely put it to my list, and
Yeah, get your hands on it.
yeah, I'll put it.
Yeah,
I'll put a link to the book, but down below this video because, yeah, it just so it happens that I'm a librarian and I want people to read, and as a teacher too, I bet you want more people to
absolutely.
read. So
Yep,
it does. It fits with who we are, in addition to our deafness. So that's good.
absolutely. So, what's your book, Brad? Do you have one for the folks
So
today for our first full
my book
episode?
is I actually have the physical book here. So my book is oh, the video's upside. More tech problems, Julie. I should know
I'm
better.
really,
Anyway, so
I'm
this is
questioning this collaboration. I got to tell you.
she's gonna get me out for somebody else who knows what they're doing. My book is James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time, and so James Baldwin is one of my favorite writers. He's
Mhm.
just sadly relevant today. So he was writing
Yeah,
back in the 1960s, and his writing is so relevant. It's so sad, but he's such a powerful writer. It's I get chills when I read it, and I'm a white guy, so
right.
it's just amazing. So I promise all of my choices will not be so heavy, but I felt I had to start with him because he was just kind of forgotten or overshadowed by
Hmm.
MLK and Malcolm X, but he
Hmm.
was writing and talking at the same time, and he's just. I think some of it was because he was also gay, so kind of got pushed to the side because
Wow.
how do you deal with
I didn't
someone who's
realize
too
that.
minority?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
It sounds very timely,
yeah, he's,
unfortunately.
yeah. So that's why it
Fortunately
just,
and unfortunately. So
yeah,
hopefully it's something to learn and reflect from for sure.
right.
Well, thank
So it's a
you.
shorter book. It's The Fire Next Time is actually a quote from the Bible. After the
Hmm.
flood, God promised Noah to not destroy the world with water, but with the fire next time. So I'm not
Gave
sure
him
how
options.
hopeful that message is. And so I'm also not Christian. So
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how powerful that is, but it was powerful to Baldwin because he was a child minister. He was training to be
Oh,
a
wow.
pastor.
I recognize his name and I know very
Yeah,
little about him, but you've definitely filled in more of the gaps for me. So I'd love
yeah,
to check that out
yeah, yeah,
when I have a chance for sure.
yeah. All right, so
I
we got
think
some
that's
homework
it.
to do.
We do. I think that's it for us for today, for right now, for this clip. Brad, do you have any closing words for folks?
I would just
Anything
encourage
else?
people to comment below. Let us
Hmm.
know what you think about these situations, what you want us to talk about in the future. Please, we're open to suggestions. Julie went mad, and there's like 100 different topics that we're
102.
Okay, so there you go. So we have plenty of things to talk about, but if you let us know what you want to hear from us, maybe we'll find that on the list and move it up.
Move it up for you,
And
absolutely.
also, I won't speak for Julie, but I don't want anyone to feel guilty about anything that we say.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you. Go.
Uh,
Sorry, I'm interrupting you. Go ahead. I'll stop.
I think that we're just relating our experience, right? And that's why when we were saying, I can't remember if it was in the intro or this one, that this is just our experiences, and so we don't claim to speak for everybody, but we have to speak for ourselves. And if that means painful truths, then so be it, right? We're not maliciously doing it. We're not blaming anyone. We're not looking
Hmm.
for changes per se, more than just awareness that this is our life and this is the challenges that we go through that you may not be aware of. Because although our hearing aids are visible sometimes, it is considered an invisible disability.
Absolutely. And I would say along those lines too, don't be embarrassed. Ask the curious questions. If you're thinking of something, you're not going to insult us. Ask it. That's
Yeah.
what we're here for. We're here to teach. We're here to learn with each other. We're here to help you. And that's really the most important thing is really do some great thinking, respond to us, react to things we're saying, even if you disagree, ask the curious questions, and don't feel like you have to default to praising us. And oh, you're doing such a wonderful thing with your disability. We don't want to hear it. Okay, that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
That's another episode. But down below, throw a comment in, send us a message. We can't wait to hear from you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.